Hello everyone, this is Jake from CINECALIBER. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing the final 4 episodes of Shogun. If you guys haven't seen them, there will be links below for the video for episodes 1, 2, and 3, and then there will also be a link for the episodes 4, 5, and 6. Basically where we left off with 4, 5, and 6, there was a lot of character-driven episodes that really started to really explore these characters. And now we're kind of going into this war arc with the Crimson Sky, so to say. But let me tell you, these last 4 episodes, they completely changed everything I thought I knew about this show going forward. And all my guesses of what was going to happen are completely out the window. So I'm telling you, this show is probably one of the best, if not the best, of this year so far. But before I start to get into anything, I want to let everyone know, as always, there will be a thumbnail at the end, and on the bottom right there will be a picture that depicts a theme or a plot element. For those who have seen the episodes, please let me know in the comments what you think that relates to in this video. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead with episode 7. So here's the plot summary. Outplayed by new alliances in Osaka, Toranaga is forced to carve out a new deal with a long-lost family member. So like I said before, this episode starts to really go into that final arc. And there's like an over-looming theme of war the show has been building to from the start. So basically, in this one, Toranaga's looking for allies in his war against Ishido and the Christian regions. That advantage kind of shifts away from him, unfortunately. For everyone, there will be slight spoilers on the show in here. Not a whole lot, but enough so I can at least kind of cover my thoughts on these episodes. But yes, basically, he goes to try and get his brother to help him in his war against the Christian regions. His brother is a new character called Seki, and it kind of just doesn't go his way. His brother kind of betrays him, in a sense. So, and then after that, then this episode does a really good job kind of exploring Toranaga a little bit more. It basically goes into his young past, how he became a great war general, and I really liked how that backstory kind of provides meaning to his choice of surrender in this episode. It does a really good job showing what his true thoughts are, what, how people look up to him as, but he really isn't that kind of a leader, and it kind of just goes along with his choices, and I thought that really personifies him very well. That deep characterization really just makes his choices just more relatable. Like I get why he was doing what he was doing, despite everyone kind of not liking his choices. There was also some other great just characterizations and a few other people. We kind of go over Buntero, who is Mariko's husband and who hasn't been liking another main character, John Blackthorne. I mean, he's basically been building up. He doesn't like Blackthorne. He's just, in this one, he's just trying to find any way to eliminate him altogether. So, there was a lot of, tension between him, Blackthorne, and Mariko, and I thought that they depicted that very well in this episode. Another big character I thought had a good moment was Fuji. She's been having this desire to die since the beginning of the show. And she has a really powerful moment with her grandfather, Hiramatsu, who's another big character in the show. And it's just trying to get her out of this funk because there was things that happened in episode 1 that basically just caused her to be just depressed and wanting to just kind of die. So, this show is I like how the show is trying to redeem her character and it's making her more of a likable and relatable character as well. Other than that, oh yes, so another big character in this was Toranaga's son, Nagakido. Let's just say his character becomes full circle in this episode. There was some things he did in the past that kind of, him just acting hasty, and it just all kind of came back to bite him in this episode. And I'll leave it at that. I don't want to leave too many spoilers, but I thought they handled his character very well. And everything kind of just came full circle for him. Like I said, this show does a really good job in just kind of showing the consequences of a character's actions, especially with this vast Japanese culture that a lot of people just weren't aware of how it was back then, and I really enjoyed it. So, and that's really all I had for episode 7. I guess I have no dislikes. The show's been like phenomenal. So yeah, we're gonna get into episode 8 here. So here's the plot summary for that. Tornaga's defeated clan moves to Edo. Blackthorn must decide who he fights for. So there's some events that happen in the last episode that kind of give Tornaga a little bit of time before his untimely demise after he surrenders. So basically, Shido and Ochiba are basically ready to just get rid of Tornaga altogether. And this episode kind of starts to explore the enemies again. You see the Portuguese pop up, which, we haven't really seen them in a bit. We also see Ishido and Ochiba, and they're kind of just continuing to strengthen their alliance against Tornaga. So another dark episode. It seems like Tornaga's kind of just on the verge of defeat, and it's not looking good for him or any of the characters affiliated with him, unfortunately. In this one, like I said, the Portuguese they kind of want Tornaga to bank to cash. They want to cash in on the promised land that he offered them earlier in the show. So but that whole sequence is pretty well crafted, because Tornaga kind of gets the last laugh against them. You guys will see it when you guys watch it, but I really liked how Tornaga kind of flipped the whole promise that he made for them. He's a crafty dude. So this episode really goes into Tornaga's army commanders are really starting to question his decision for surrender. And it just kind of builds and builds and builds. And then it gets to one very specific scene. And that scene is I think it's 10 minutes long, just about. That it's kind of between Tornaga and Hiramatsu. And it's such a scene of well-crafted dialogue. Like I said, the show's suspenseful moments aren't even in the fight scenes. It's just on this just people talking to each other and just building off of each other. It's so powerful, and kind of reminds me of why I liked Oppenheimer last year. Just more power with words, and just the acting. The writing's just doing its job here. But yeah, that 10-minute scene of them just kind of going at it, quarreling over decisions, was just so powerful and so suspenseful. And then the results are just kind of oh my gosh, it's getting a little bit out of hand, but the show's just crazy like that. Yeah, there was also they kind of explore a moment between showcasing the troubled marriage between Pontero and Mariko. This was another not very long, but it was a little lengthy scene between Pontero and Mariko to kind of showcase their troubled marriage. And to me, it feels I get a sense that it kind of closes the door on that whole thing. Just kind of what, this is where we're at, but and this is it. Mariko's kind of ready for the next big thing, and Montero's kind of just trying to hold on to something that really just isn't there anymore. And I thought that they really showed that very well, just how that marriage just kind of imploded, and you can kind of sense that just from the scenes that we've had in the earlier episodes. And yeah, I haven't really been talked about John Blackthorn. He really hasn't been that much of a factor in so far, but here they kind of explore him a little bit more. He's just having this conflict of integrating with Japan's culture, and he's also conflicted with his loyalty towards Tornaga, like all the other commanders, because he's why are you surrendering? And he's trying to find his old crew, and it kind of just turns a different way for him. But I also think it starts to make him realize that he's more into this world than he thought he was going to be. And that's what I really like, is that his character continues to just kind of grow in this show and in this world as well. So, and it also kind of leads him to an alliance with Yabushige. Yabushige is someone that I've always known to be kind of like a snake. For those who watch Game of Thrones, he kind of reminds me of Littlefinger. Just that guy just playing sides, just trying to get power himself. And, now having them kind of join an alliance is okay. So, what's going to happen there, basically. But that was like the big things of this episode. And then we're gonna go right into episode 9 here. So episode 9, we have the plot summary, which is Mariko arrives in Asuka for the fight of her life. Blackthorn and Yabushiki scramble to save their own heads as their options dwindle. So guys, this is absolutely, arguably the best episode of the entire series. It's the penultimate episode too. This episode is just completely focused on Mariko, and I really, really loved Anna Sawai's performance of Mariko, and it basically is showing her carrying out a plan to help Tornaga's quest for war, even though it's like everything seems helpless. There seems to be everything riding on her to basically get the final ace in this whole war against Ishido and Ochiba. And there's just so many things with her character in here that are just so phenomenal. Initially, she has a confrontation with Ishido and Ochiba, which is just a great moment of great dialogue between all of them, and she just doesn't back down. And then there's a scene after that where she wants to leave, and she's not allowed to leave, and she goes with her and Tornaga's men to a gate, and she's just trying to get out, and they're not letting her, and all the emotion and all the efforts by her, it's really showcased, and like Anna Sawai just does a great job. And then to add to it, her and John Blackthorn have had a romance throughout the show, and I think that also was a big highlight here, and kind of shows more depth between the two as well. Because that romance, I think, has been developing very well, and it kind of just adds more depth to the overall thing, because she's, so conflicted with herself as a character, because, everything that happened with her father, and how she's kind of like a traitor, so to speak, or she's labeled as a traitor because of her father's actions, and she's just trying to find that way to redeem herself. But then she's doing that by her honor with Tornaga, but she's also conflicted because she is also in love with John Blackthorn, and vice versa, he's in love with her. Like, the two are just such great characters, and they have both dark pasts, and they kind of just, they click, and, there's just, that's conflicting with her duty. It's such a great, a neat aspect that they're kind of exploring that. And then there's like a final act for her in this episode, and it basically, her whole character arc just comes full circle. And like I said, it's a bit tragic, but it's just so powerful. Like, after the end of this episode, you're kind of left with like, oh my god, like, this is like, Tornaga's kind of getting the edge here, even though it's in a way that you don't think, and that's what's really awesome. And then this was a really big episode for Yabushiki as well. I mean, the show has been building for him to be this unloyal traitor, and this is the episode where there's no coming back. He will never come back from the things that he does in this episode. He really, like I said, he's just been playing both sides, and he finally did the one thing that was going to basically bite him. And the way everything kind of plays out with Mariko at the end, you're like, yeah, this guy, it's only a matter of time before he kind of meets his end. And it's something I saw coming, everyone saw coming, but he's been such a great character. I can't really say he's a villain. He's more of like, he is, but he's more of like a anti-hero, or just someone, out for his own thing, quest. You like him, but you don't. At least Littlefinger in Game of Thrones, I didn't like at all, or I did like him as a villain. But it's a little weird. He's like not a full villain. He's kind of funny, but yeah, this was a big one for him. And basically in episode 10, I'll talk about that here. So, but that's really all I had for episode 9. Episode 10, where the plot summary is, in the wake of a tragic death, Blackthorn finally considers the true nature of Toranaga's plan. So guys, there was a lot of criticism on this episode. A lot of people felt like it didn't fully promise the war that it builds up to. They just don't like the ending, basically, because it wasn't really a war or a battle that it ends on. But the novel the show is based on, this is what I want to tell you guys, it ends in the same fashion. The writers just kind of went with the book, and that's all. And what people just have to realize is that the action isn't about the war. It's about the human interactions, the strategy, and the differences between the two cultures, European and Japanese. So, and the show concludes in a good way by providing the answers that we needed to know, like, what's going to happen. And it's just really, it's all about the journey. It showcases the various characters I've explored. If I ever do a review on Lost, an old show I watched, that it's kind of similar to that, and that's something I would talk about as well, because it's more about the journey than it is about the end result, which people are expecting. And unfortunately, a lot of people just aren't going to get it. But just keep that in mind, watching this video. Let's see. So this is the episode where you basically see that Toranaga has been just playing a match of chess since his initial surrender to his brothers. You're talking like 4 episodes. This guy's just been, here's a pawn, here's a knight, here's a queen. They did their part, and now he's finally there. He's going to be the one to get the final checkmate, and I think that's just brilliant. And the way they kind of show that and reveal that is kind of like a Ocean's 11 heist, where it like goes through this whole thing and then it gets to that end result, and you're like, oh my god, this guy, he's a genius, a tactical genius, a master of war. So I really liked that a lot. This episode was a really big John Blackthorne character. It really shows just how much he's truly changed as a character since arriving in Japan. I mean, this is a guy, when he first arrived, he's in the village of Anjur, and he can't stand being there. But now in this episode, he's willing to die for this village. Like that shift is just so monumental. And then, he never was big on being this Homotodo. I think that's what it's called, Hodomoto. But he never was big on, being that or having Fuji as his courtesan, but now he fully has respect for her. He has a full kind of weird love for her, and like I said, a monumental shift of his character. And talking about Fuji, she also in this episode explores her a bit. Her character comes full circle as well. She's finally kind of at a place where she finally has found purpose, and I really like that the show does that. Like I said, it's done such a great job with these characters, just bringing them from one point to another, in a sense, like just showing like, here's where you are, here's where you're at, based on like what you've been doing, and it's been phenomenal. And then there's also these like flashback sequences that happen that kind of show Blackthorne as like an old man. And I thought there was just a huge and powerful message behind there. And like, as you're watching it, you're like, oh, this is a flashback. But in reality, it's actually more of a flash forward of showing what his life would be like if he didn't do the things he did in Japan. And I thought that was a really big part of his character arc as well. He also, another big decision for him that changes everything is he lets go of his quarrel with the church. That was a huge thing for me. He just wanted to fight them and get back at them. And then even like they even like plotted with Toranaga to destroy his ship, the Erasmus. After all that, he's just, he sees it all and he's just like, oh my god, like my ship's gone. But he still just decides to let go of his quarrel because he's just evolved so much as a character. Like that like I said, that they've done such a tremendous job with his character, and I really enjoyed it. So, and then some other things here, Bontero and Omi. Omi we really haven't talked about. He kind of, he shows up a little bit in episode 8 when they're questioning him, Toranaga's like surrender, but he changed completely as well, like for the better. Like there's a point where Omi and Blackthorne just absolutely just hate each other, and they're kind of standing off, guns, swords. Then there's a moment where it's like the same moment in the same courtyard where they're, here's my weapon, let's go. Like there's just that respect, and like I said, he's evolved so much, and he's become more of a good guy versus that weasel that he was in the earlier parts of the show. And even Montero, like, it left off with him in his marriage towards Mariko it wasn't going to work out. And really, he doesn't really show up to the final moments of the show, but like his character too, like he's evolved so much. There's basically a scene where he's basically having a respectful moment with John Blackthorne, and it's like, wow, like this guy's come a long way, because he's another one that hated Blackthorne, but now he's like this full on, like, he's ready to help, he's ready to contribute and serve Blackthorne, because Blackthorne's still part of Toranaga's, army as a commander. So, like I said, there's two big characters that just kind of have come a long way for the better. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the fate of Yabushi. So, yeah, he did some pretty despicable things in this last episode, and it caught up to him here. There's a very big moment between him and Toranaga, and that's when basically everything got revealed by Toranaga about his master plan of what the Crimson Sky really was. And that was like when I was like, man, this show is just unreal. Like, I have no idea that they were gonna do all that. It's really crazy. But yeah, he basically, I mean, you can kind of guess that he's a goner by this point in the show. So, and like I said, Yabushi, it's been, he's been a great character, a great villain. And really, that's all the episodes, and we're going to actually go into my conclusion. So, my conclusion here, this show was a masterpiece. It really was, from start to finish, and it was a show that explored the historical culture accuracy of a 1600s Japan. Basically, if you were a visitor, like if you were going to Japan in the 1600s like a tourist, this show is basically showing you what that world would be like as you just coming in to tour it. Like, and just seeing the craziness. And that's how I felt about it. It doesn't, like I said before, it doesn't go into any kind of bloody war. There's bloody moments, but there's no big bloody war. I mean, despite all the different factions and all that, and there's just so much more with the vast storytelling, the detailed characterization arcs, and suspenseful moments of dialogue is what really makes this show stand out. And really, the war is really just more about deception. And to me, that was just more powerful than just a war of just bloody battles. Like, there's just so much you can do with that compared to just the typical stabbing and dying and beheading. So, but yeah, this is definitely my favorite show of the 2024 year so far. So I really don't know if anything's going to top it. This is arguably the best miniseries since Chernobyl and back in like 2019, which, it's saying a lot because I love that show too. So I'm actually going to be giving my final rating in a short. So I will basically be sharing that with you guys then. As always, please comment and like and subscribe to the channel. And just as a reminder of the thumbnail, just let me know what your guys' thoughts are on that. There's also 2 videos below. If you guys haven't been able to check out episodes 1, 2, and 3, and episodes 4, 5, and 6, you can check those out as well. All right. Have a great night, everyone, or morning, wherever you guys are at.